Do ghosts still haunt these abandoned theaters? The show's over, the applause is gone, and the audience went home 50 years ago. But what if I told you that in theaters all over the world, when the lights go out, a totally different show begins? For some stages, the performance literally never ends. There's this crazy tradition, check this out. They leave one single light bulb, a ghost light, burning on the empty stage. The official story is it's for safety, so you don't trip in the dark. But everyone in the theater world says its real purpose is to keep the ghosts happy, giving them a spotlight for their own endless, silent show. Theaters are basically designed to hold energy. Seriously, think about it. Thousands of people gasping at the same time, the roar of a standing ovation, the insane emotion from actors on stage. What happens to all that energy when a theater is just locked up and left to rot? Does it just disappear? Or does it stick to the seats and the curtains, replaying those moments forever? Tonight, we're going deep into the shadows of the world's creepiest abandoned theaters. We're not just looking at decaying buildings, we're trying to find the ghosts that are said to still be here. From massive, crumbling palaces to tiny small-town theaters with just one lonely ghost, we're asking the question, who is still sitting in the balcony watching us right now? We're starting in Bridgeport, Connecticut, at the Majestic Theater. This place has been silent for over 45 years. It's this sleeping giant, just waiting. From the outside, it's a wreck. But inside, it's a crazy time capsule of old-school fancy and total decay. The plaster is crumbling and the seats are covered in dust, but you can still feel how insane this place must have been. It's beautiful, and it's super unsettling. Anyone who's actually gone inside tells a chilling story. They talk about seeing shadows moving through the massive empty theater, like they're darting between the seats looking for a spot. Other people report these insane cold spots where the temperature drops so fast it feels like you walked through an ice wall. And then there are the sounds, not just the building creaking, but stuff that shouldn't be there. A faint whisper in the total darkness, or the sound of one single footstep on the giant, empty stage. Walking through the Majestic is like wading through history. You could almost hear the crowd, the orchestra playing, all that energy, every huge performance, every standing ovation. It's like the walls soaked it all up. Maybe the spirits here aren't evil. Maybe they're just echoes, like a video on repeat of a happier time. Or maybe they're the old audience and actors so connected to this theater that they just refuse to leave, forever waiting for the show to start again. Not all hauntings are terrifying. Sometimes it's just a weird part of the job for people who work around ghosts. This brings us to Cleveland, Ohio, and the abandoned Variety Theater. It's been closed for years, but it's not empty. The theater has a caretaker who is basically the warden for a bunch of ghosts. He doesn't just think it's haunted. He acts like he knows the ghosts personally. He says the spirits at the Variety are super active. He'll find lights turned on and off by themselves. Doors will just open and close on their own, like ghosts are walking around. He hears voices echoing from empty rooms. He's so used to it that he actually says hello to the ghosts when he walks in, just like they're his roommates. This isn't a story about being scared, but about living with ghosts. It's a totally different kind of haunting, where the spirits are just part of the building. Who are they? Old stagehands, still doing their jobs in the afterlife? Or audience members who loved the theater so much they decided to stay forever? The caretaker stories give us this crazy personal look into a theatre's afterlife. The ghosts of the variety aren't just some scary story, they're residents, a permanent, invisible audience in a theatre that's waiting for another show. These stories come from people who know these buildings best: the staff, the caretakers, the locals. What crazy stories have you heard from your local theatre? Let us know in the comments. And if you think this stuff is as insane as I do, you should subscribe so you don't miss what we explore next. You don't need a giant, fancy theatre for a good ghost story. Sometimes the craziest ones come from the most normal places. We're going now to a small prairie town and an abandoned movie theatre from the 1940s. For years, locals whispered about weird things happening here, voices after closing, the feeling of being watched from the projection booth. But the craziest story comes from the building's last owner. She was spending her last night in the theatre, packing up all by herself in the silent building. And that's when she saw him. A young man, or maybe a boy, wearing clothes from a different time, probably from when the theatre opened in the 40s. He was just standing near the exit. He didn't say a word. He just looked at her, raised a hand to wave, and then turned and walked straight through the closed doors and disappeared. One story, you could say she imagined it. But the local history adds a chilling twist. Before this building was a movie theatre, it was the town's morgue. This discovery makes the whole thing so much creepier. Was the boy someone who was brought through the building back then? A spirit that isn't connected to the movies, but to a place of death. The owner's story is this direct, quick moment with a ghost who seems pretty gentle. He isn't some terrifying monster, he's just a quiet observer, a lonely spirit in a lonely place, forever waving goodbye. From the huge majestic to that little prairie cinema, there's one thing they all have in common: the ghost light. This tradition, a single bare light bulb on a stand in the middle of the stage, is an insane superstition. Yes, it keeps you from falling off the stage, but the real reason for it is way deeper. Some people say it lights the way for ghost performers to find the stage and have their best moments again. Others believe it keeps bad spirits from messing things up. The ghost light is a sign of respect, like an agreement that the stage is never really, truly empty. And this is where it all gets crazy in the quiet. Imagine sitting in one of these abandoned theaters in the middle of the night, with just that one bulb fighting back the darkness. Every creak sounds like a footstep. Every draft feels like a cold hand on your neck. This is where ghost hunters report their most insane experiences. That feeling of being watched. The faint sounds of laughing or music from a show that ended 60 years ago. The smell of cigars or old perfume that comes from nowhere. In this quiet moment, it feels like you could see through to the other side. You can almost believe that if you just sit still, you might see the curtain rise one last time for an audience that's already dead. So, do ghosts still haunt these abandoned theaters? After walking through these creepy places, after hearing the stories that bounce around inside them, it's hard to say no. We've stood in the massive, empty, majestic theater where shadows are said to be watching from the dark. We've heard about the caretaker at the Variety Theatre who literally talks to his ghost friends. And we've met the lonely ghost of a boy in a prairie cinema, a silent fan who never left. Whether these are actual spirits of dead people or just leftover energy, the feeling is the same. These buildings feel alive. The stories, passed from person to person, keep the magic and the mystery going. Theaters are built to hold stories, and it seems like even when they die, they refuse to stop. The buildings themselves might be abandoned, but their stages, it looks like, are still getting a lot of use. They're proof that some performances are so powerful they never ever end. Thanks for coming on this investigation with us. If you have a haunted place you think we should explore next, challenge us in the comments. Until next time, stay curious,